Who should we root for in this Final Four? What is the best story? Who do you want to see cut down the nets and why? Tyler, let's go to you first.
UConn, because we picked them in our bracket. And if you've been and if you've been following me on my picks in the tournament, it hasn't been looking good. So it's the only bracket that I can actually stand on and look halfway decent in my knowledge. But no, I'm pulling for UConn. It's good to see them back. And, for what they've done in the college basketball world, previously and currently, it's good to see them, getting back to that stage and making that step, getting closer. I think UConn needs to be there. And now all these other schools, hey, it's a good story. FAU, marching through, never been there. Same thing for San Diego State. I love it, but I'm not a big Cinderella guy. I like to see the powerhouses. I like to see the big fan bases and the tradition there. And it feels like UConn belongs, and it kind of feels like they're breaking that door down again and saying, hey, we're back.
I'm going to remove UConn from the list for myself. I'm just going to do it. That's too obvious for me. And I'm going to say that the team that you should be rooting for is San Diego State. And this is why. The Aztecs 4 years ago had a team that was good enough to pull this off. They had a team that was good enough to win a national title. They spent the entire year ranked in the top 10 or the top 5. They were a number 2 seed after losing like 2 random games late in the season. If you remember, and I remember it very clearly, the last game that I watched was Sam Merrill. Remember him for Utah State hitting that step back like 40-footer at the buzzer to beat San Diego State in the I think it was in overtime of the Mountain West tournament title game. And that was right before COVID shut everything down. And San Diego State with Malachi Flynn, with Matt Mitchell, like that was a team that was good enough to go out and make a Final Four and win a national title. And they didn't get that opportunity to do it. Neither did Dayton. That sucks. It's not fair. I feel for those guys. There's 4 players from that group on this team. Weka Rope, Nathan Mensah, Joel Mensah. I'm blanking on the last one. Adam Seiko. Like those 4 guys were on that team. They're key contributors to this team. Brian Dutcher was the coach of that team. He's the coach of this team. And it feels like that is kind of like the full circle moment that some of those kids deserve, right? Like I remember when that tournament got shut down, like how much that hurt everybody that was involved. That was supposed to be my first time on national television. The first time I was going to do in-studio stuff for NBC Sports Network for the A10 tournament. And it was actually Mike Rhodes and Matt McCall. I remember sitting there watching the screen, getting ready to go live, and it was 11:55. And we got the notice that they canceled the A10 tournament. And I'm watching live as they zoom in on Matt McCall's face, and he goes, "We're not playing," as he's looking at Mike Rhodes. So giving those San Diego State kids a chance to go and get their title, I think that's what I would be rooting for if I, didn't have an obvious bias in this situation. I think that's such a cool story.
That's fair. I'm glad you gave me that spin, Rob. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been sort of dreading any result of the San Diego State team advancing further in this tournament, guys.
Their fans are nuts, dude.
Their fans are nuts.
They're nuts.
I listen, I hope, honestly, I'm bringing a San Diego State jersey to Houston this week. It's the only jersey I own of the 4 teams that remain. It's crazy. I don't have a UConn jersey, the jersey collector that I am. I have a Kawhi Leonard Aztecs jersey. That will make its way with me to Houston. But I need Aztecs fans to talk some sense into me, man, because I don't like this team. I don't love this team. I respect this team. This team is tough as hell. They're good. But Rob, like the average age of guys on this team is exactly what you just like. They're all like 23 and a half years old. And like, I can applaud them for that. That's awesome that they're still here. But like, they're all playing with their extra COVID year that should they or should they not have had it. It's great they gave that to everybody in the sport, but we got a team full of adult grown men that plays great defense and holds teams to 50 points and 17% 3-point shooting. And if nobody makes a shot against them, they might win a national championship. That would suck if that happens. Like if they win a national championship with UConn going like 2 for 24 from 3, that would be horrendous for our eyeballs for everybody.
It's not a great thing for college basketball to have a team playing that way on national television on the biggest stage. Like in theory, in the big picture of everything, you should want games played like Miami beat Texas. It was 88-81. It wasn't a close game, but it was an unbelievable comeback. It was a great run. I think Miami scored like 42 points in the last 13 minutes of that game to come back and beat Texas. Two relatively big brands with relatively big fan bases playing an awesome basketball game on national television. And even that didn't do great eyeballs. But I'll tell you this, in 2011, UConn played Butler in a national title game that very few people actually paid attention to. It was a hideous basketball game. The final score was 53-41. No one can make a shot. It was nothing but bricks getting thrown up left and right. I believe that game was also played in Houston. Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can get a little extra sweat during March Madness and win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's games. In Pick'em, all you do is predict whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether that's points, rebounds, whatever. For example, if you're like me and you think Zach Edey is going to go nuts in this tournament, pick higher on his points projection, add up to 4 more picks, and if you hit them all, you can win 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured it out. So go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, FIELD, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Now is the time to get in on the madness. So remember, underdogfantasy.com, promo code FIELD. And it survived. Like, college basketball was fine. We set record numbers this year on college basketball games being watched. On the field of 68 people watching games and watching streams. On, I feel comfortable saying this, on CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, they set records. College basketball consumption has never been better than this. Just because you have one fluky Final Four, like, that's fine. I'm going to give you another team to root for, though. Tyler, this is why you want, if Miami beats UConn, this is why you want to be rooting for Miami. Because when the FBI came in and tried to fuck everything up in college basketball and did it in such a horrible way, that this pisses me off so much. I might go on a rant. I'm going to avoid the rant now. Maybe later, maybe in the afters. But but Miami was not involved in that at all. Their name got brought into it. It cost them a whole bunch of players, a whole bunch of recruits. It cost them all the momentum that they built in that program. They won the ACC in 2013. They made a couple deep runs with like Shane Larkin and Angel Rodriguez, and then boom, it just completely cratered, and they were terrible for like 3 years. And Jim Larinaga, who, like, I mean, you guys know him, great dude, awesome coach, a lot of fun to listen to stories, built them all the way back, right? And now they are officially all the way back. They are Final Four good after being Elite Eight good last year. And if they can go out and win a national title, and that's like the crowning achievement of Jim Larinaga's career, and this is what gets him in the Hall of Fame, like, I can be mad at that, but I can't be that mad at that, right?
Well, I'm pulling for Miami because they're in the ACC too, and I'm with you on the FBI stuff. I didn't like how they handled that either. I followed that FBI stuff. I thought it was a bunch of BS the way they handled it, but I like Larinaga because I like his low-key sense of humor. And whenever Boeheim said, these teams had bought some, teams with the NIL money, whatever, I think he purposely whipped out his money clip on TV and flashed that and then put it right back in his pocket. And I love that move. And I think he's got a great personality. He's really funny, which is something that, I love to see in college basketball. He looks like he's having fun. And his teams, they look like they enjoy basketball, which after watching North Carolina this year is a little refreshing too. But, him dancing in the locker room with the guys after the game, I love that. So I'd love to see the kids having fun too.
Greg, what was the thing with the swimmers with Jim Larinaga? You remember that?
Oh, yeah, I do. He was like, wasn't he at a swim meet or something? Like taking in a photo op at a swim meet in Miami?
He just walked by. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like there was a swim meet after they had just won the ACC, and he was kind of walking by, and all these people were taking a picture, all the Miami swimmers. He was just like, well, you know what? Let me jump in there and take a picture with you guys. Like, that's kind of who he is and the guy that he is. It's awesome.
Yeah, we asked him about it, and he was like, I mean, pretty nice day here in Miami, like at South Beach. Like, I'm not just going to not show that off. Yeah, you guys, you stole my answer here. You beat it to death now, but Miami is my pick. I think that's who you should root for. I think that if you are gonna play in this era, there's a lot of different ways, and you could give San Diego State, even though I'm hating on them, the age thing credit for it. They're doing it their way. Miami's doing it their way. The $800,000 man, Nigel Pack, has been huge in this tournament. And that was the story of the offseason, was like, I can't believe that John Ruiz has publicly come out, and there's a price tag on it for the first time in college basketball history. And we're just like watching it out in the open. All the cards are on the table. This is how much he got paid to go play basketball at Miami. And he's allowed to do that now. And he wasn't great for big stretches of the season, but down the stretch, he's been phenomenal. We already knew what Isaiah Wong was. Norchad Omier, another guy they got from the portal. I love this Miami team. I love watching them. Like you said, Tyler, they clearly love playing together. That's not like my team, the Michigan Wolverines, was at all this season. It's refreshing to watch. Larinaga the perfect leader for it, and it's the perfect team in this era, in my opinion. So I'm rooting for the Hurricanes, even though they have to get through Dauster's UConn Huskies. I would say, though, like, I think you can talk yourself into rooting for any of these teams. Like, if you are just a fan of the sport at large and you're looking at this Final Four like, it's a little gross, then root for UConn, because UConn's a legitimately great team. And if they win a national title, they hold up in the history books of like, that was a great UConn team. You can root for Miami for all the reasons we just said. We haven't even talked about Florida Atlantic yet, but like, they are the traditional little guy in this field. Like, this is a team that if they won a national title, it would be the biggest thing for quote unquote Cinderella teams since Butler's runs, right? Like, and this team is a team that I think has staying power. We haven't even mentioned them, but I feel like this is not a fluky run whatsoever. They've been that good this year.
They have staying power if they're going to be able to pay these kids. And now that everybody knows how damn good they are.